that's not what I wanted. Okay, where is it? Hold on, everybody. We're learning Zoom. That's not what I wanted. Okay, let me get down to here. Okay. Now, why is that not working? Okay. Hello, everybody. This is Janet Care Lessin. I'm with Glenn Bogue, and we're doing our annual Christmas show on Jesus the Anunnaki. And I'm on Zoom, and I haven't used it in a while, but I'm looking to get to my screen here, so it's coming up. So I can share screen and show you today's show page. Okay, that's not it. Anyway, let's just start talking. So this is Janet Care Lessin. This is another episode of Aquarian Radio. We're using Zoom this time with Glenn Bogue. So aloha, Glenn. It's been, oh goodness, a year or so since we last.
A year. It's been last Christmas.
It was last Christmas, right? Yeah, I think we had a show last Christmas. So what's been going on since last Christmas?
Well, the COVID came, of course, in March to North America, but we had managed in our indigenous world, because I am a Métis in Canada, and the indigenous movement in Canada is kind of rolling forward disproportionately because the indigenous people are only 4% of the population, but it is a hot topic. And so in the last year, we have launched a lawsuit in our highest court to claim back the resources of North America, South America, and the Caribbean.
And what do you mean by claim back resources? Explain that further. What does that look like?
Yes, so right now, like last month, a Boston company bought a big mineral deposit in one of our provinces in the middle of the country and sold it to China. And we're saying, wait a minute, a Boston company sells our resources that belong to the people, so the people think, and sold it to a Chinese company. And the Canadian people didn't get anything. So we put a claim in on the resources that can't be sold anymore without some monies coming to the Canadian people.
And what resource did they sell?
It was a very unusual mineral. I can't remember. It was black, dark mineral, but very rare, but very, very much sought in the world. And we have one of the biggest resources in the world in this mineral. And this is what happens because it's not in the press, Janet. They keep these things in the quiet, that the corporations can do what they want. Most of the mineral companies are headquartered in Toronto, Canada. So the reason for that, because Canada is easy pickings. The people don't fight. They just go along with the program. They're very polite. But now, since COVID, they've begun to wake up.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, so once they realize a country like Canada is the richest country in the world, we're third place behind China and Saudi Arabia. But once you add in our fresh water, then we become the richest country in the world. And so lots and lots of transnational companies come here to profit from the resource extraction and sale. And the country's capital in Ottawa, the politicians just go along with the program. They get paid, and nobody else does. So it's an introduction to the wealth of North America, the wealth of Canada. I'm not sure what's going on in the U.S. I have some ideas what's going to go on shortly in the Trump-Biden debate. But But North America is the new Garden of Eden.
Oh.
That's what it was called by Francis Bacon
Mm-hmm.
back in the 1600s. That America would be this great fertile ground.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that it is. George Washington had said to the American people, don't ever make a treaty with a country outside of North America. You're protected by all, oceans on all sides,
Mm-hmm.
and you have food, and you have wealth, and you have gold, and you have people, and you have everything you want to prosper. And somehow, with the one world government, the place went into cuckoo land.
Right.
So now we put it's called a commercial lien. It's a legal lien. You put a the best example is when you back in the Middle Ages, if I worked on your boat, Janet, and you were the captain, and you didn't pay me, I could put a lien on the whole boat. I mean the whole shooting match, and you could not leave the harbor until my case is heard.
Mm-hmm.
And so they had a judge right on the dock, and the captain would come down or his emissary, and we'd work out a deal, and I'd get paid, and the boat could leave. That's the power of a lien.
Good.
So I say that because there's going to be a huge battle coming up in the next 6 months, and the focal point is going to be the United States because of its power or its former power. And so going into our talking about Jesus is that I understand that he might be in Mount Shasta, California.
Right. Now, Mount Shasta, when you go down deep into the earth, there's a transportation system that goes underneath the entire planet. So he may have entered there, but he could actually be wherever he wants to be. I have a friend named Stuart Swerdlow who worked at Montauk in New York. And he would get in this, it's an ancient system. It's probably Anunnaki. It could be even a more ancient race. It might be, millions of years old. But he would go, the government found it and they activated it and used it. It was still working. So he would go into this, I want to call it a train just for simplicity. It was just like a faster than the speeding bullet transportation system. And he could go from the East Coast
Yes,
in 1 hour, go work his day in California.
your friend,
My
your friend.
Stuart Swerdlow and other people have reported this, but of course it's part of the secret government. So we have the governments of the world, and then we have these covert. Okay, somebody wants to come in, but I'm not going to let them speak. Okay, I sent an invite for people to join us. Okay.
I sent a few invites out too, so they may join it. They may join us.
So I have to pay attention to that. So anyway, so there's this underground railroad, and so the story is that the last time we saw Enki, let's see, I'm trying to figure this out. Anyway, the last time we saw Enki, he went into Mount Shasta, but he could be anywhere. So just to give you that little tip.
What do you mean last time? What do you mean, Janet? Last time you saw Enki?
Well, somebody reported, and I wish Sasha was joining us, but maybe he will later. I'm not prepared for this, but there's a story about, I guess it was in the 1800s or something, and he was, he had appeared as Saint Germain. So Saint Germain is one
Yes.
of the identities, and so the story is that Saint Germain entered into Mount Shasta. Of course, there's a lot of UFO activity at Shasta. It's a very sacred space. People report there's an interdimensional portal, and there's groups that come up from South America, and every spring and summer, and they open these portals. Anyway, we're getting lots of reports here on Aquarian Radio from different people from all over the world that Shasta is really a magical place, and that's probably why Enki, who was in the identity of Saint Germain went there because you can go all the way to the inner cities, the inner earth. This is getting into a lot of different stories. Oh, what do you got there?
Well, let's stop there for a minute, Jen. That's why you're so darn good. Have you read my book 5? Are we being lied to?
That's the one you didn't get out
I
yet.
don't think so.
No, I didn't.
Well, I put it out. And I'm still fighting over some of the photos, but it's out there. But you've not read that book.
No, can you bring it into the light? You have it off camera.
Oh, you can see me? I'm not used to this. Here's the book, Are We Being Lied To? And so now you have said from another source that Enki is Saint Germain. I have a chapter, it's a short chapter in the book about Saint Germain and how Voltaire knew Saint Germain in the 1700s and said this guy, Saint Germain, never got any older. He spoke all the languages of the world perfectly, and that he was in the Great Pyramid when it was being built, and he was also at the wedding at Cana.
Yeah.
Now that's the wedding of Jesus and Mary the Magdalene.
Right.
So now you're telling me that you have information from another source that Enki is Saint Germain, which is what I wrote in that book.
Now, what was your source of that information? Was a story that you encountered?
Well, it came out of Voltaire's writings.
Of Voltaire, okay. Voltaire.
Because I was following the Knights Templar trail, which goes from 1107, when they found documents of an ancient lineage, and then they became very wealthy until 1307, when they were killed on Black Friday. A lot of them arrested and killed that year, but arrested that day. And I was tracking this concept that Enki or Jesus, who are both known as the Son of Man. That's where I started my research. We all know who the Son of Man is in the Catholic Church, except that nobody ever tells us. Every Sunday in the Catholic Mass, you hear about the Son of Man.
Right.
But they never explain who it is. And then I wandered into the ancient Sumerian texts, and here Enki is known as the Son of Man.
And then who's
but man meaning heavenly being in the Bible, and a beast being human beings. So it was a Sumerian text that began to explain who the Son of Man, the son of King Anu, who's the father of both Enki and El and Leo, and that he would come here periodically. The last time I understand was 3600 BC. He came at the start of the Jewish calendar for a big celebration, and that Enki, the Son of Man, came here to get the gold and to fashion a little miner being, a gold miner, to go into the mountains and get the gold. And so when I picked up the Knights Templar story in 1107 to 1307, that 200-year period, and these scrolls that were buried in a church altar in southern France in a town called Rennes-le-Château. So it's in those scrolls that you begin to pick up these clues of who this person is that appeared in Jerusalem and then got married at the sacred wedding at Cana.
So I'm going to share a picture.
And then, pardon?
So this is the wedding, I think, right here, if you can see it on the screen. And notice how Mary and Jesus always have this aura. The artist indicates an aura. And this is where they turn the water into wine. This is some painting, famous painting. So explain how Enki was Jesus and Ninmah, or was and is married. They are married.
Well, you have to go all the way back, but this is why you're so good, because you see those halos around their heads. When I began to do the work, and so the audience knows, once you commit to do the work and to follow, you'll be shown things that will astound you.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in a church service in Philadelphia during a meditation on the altar. There were 7 priests there, and I began to see those rings around their head. It was just a wild experience of an energy coming off their head, forming this golden ring. And I said to myself, this is what the artists saw in the Middle Ages, hanging out with these advanced beings. And it's in the paintings that we see that these secrets are being kept in the Middle Ages. So I don't know what period this is from, this painting, but it's exactly right. And so if we hold that painting up there, did it leave?
Painting. I had another image. I wish next time I'll make a little PowerPoint. But I had another image of the wedding, and they're at the wedding, reception, and they're up there with the food. While you're talking,
So let's go one thing at a time. Now, the only time the wedding at Cana appears is in the Gospel of John.
Uh-huh. And
John is completely different than the other 3 Gospels. Matthew and Luke were built upon Mark. But Mark and John do not have a nativity scene. It's as if this person, this man and his consort swam up the River Jordan and appeared at water's edge. And I assert that in my books, and I stop there at the story, because in the Gospels, Jesus came from Galilee. He came from the water's edge, up the River Jordan, with his dove. So, Jerusalem, its original name is Ariel. That's a scholar called named Margaret Starbird, in her book The Woman with the Alabaster Jar. Mm-hmm. And so she's the one who tipped me the fact that he will come there. She will come there dressed as a bride, Ariel. It was later changed to the of Salem, U-R. The second oldest name for it is the of Salem, and then it became Jerusalem. So the question becomes, Janet, who is getting married in this sacred marriage? And so the Vatican would have us believe it's this man born with no sperm and immaculate conception with his mother. Mm-hmm. That's a more recent, since around 325, the Catholic Church at the Council of Nicaea has invented this story of the Immaculate Conception. But when you go back to the ancient Sumerian texts, which is where the Jews, when they were in captivity in Babylon in 500 BC, they're in captivity, they're kind of trying to learn something, the Jewish scholars, but they're not necessarily getting the whole story of the Immaculate Conception. So when we go back before Babylon, 500 BC, back to 3000 BC, we have the story, of course, of this royal couple that came from planet X, Nibiru. And now we have Enki and Ninmah. And Enki is known as the son of man, and Ninmah is known as the Black Madonna. And she's Black Madonna because she had relations with their 3rd sibling, Enlil, And those two, the Black Madonna and Leal, had a child out of wedlock. Of course, that's a big no-no. Huh?
His name was Ninurta.
Ninurta, that's correct. And so Ninurta is their child. And so for that, and Leal got off easy. He was just, his name was blackened. He's the black one. But Ninmah was never to marry again. And never to marry at all. And she was known, of course, as the Black Madonna. And so that's ancient Sumer. You've got Enki, Ninmah, and Leal. And it was Ninmah, with the help of Enki, the son of man, and his son, Nigashita, the geneticist, and the three of them fashioned the first Adam. And proof of that can be found at Genesis 1:26. The father, Enki, his son, Nigashita, and the Holy Spirit, which was always in ancient Hebrew feminine. The name was Ruach, R-U-A-C-H, Ruach. The Holy Spirit, the ancient Holy One, the scientist, the biologist, she's a woman. She fashioned the first Adam. And then Enki's wife was brought from Planet X, outside Pluto, and her name was Damkina. And she births the first Eve. Right. And so now you've got, her moniker became Virga Mara, the queen of the seas of the seventh planet. Mara, the sea. Virga is 7, the number 7, the holy number 7. So she's the mother of Eve, and Ninmah bore the first male. But from an immaculate conception that was taking the ovum of an ape, perhaps a bonobo ape, because they're most like us, and mixing in, or an early hominid, and mixing in sperm from their planet, creating a hybrid race.
Dr. Lessin thinks it's Bigfoot, Neanderthal.
What's Bigfoot? The original being? Could be. It could be.
They mix it with Bigfoot. I want to show you. Pause. Rest for a moment. I want to show you this. Here's the picture. Oh, come on. Okay, this is the original picture of the wedding at Cana, and there's a lot of people. It's a big deal. This isn't some poor person's wedding. So let me zoom in. Oops. So this is the dinner table, and I wish I could do this bigger. Next time I'll make a PowerPoint. So there's all these people in the dinner table, and as you zoom in to the dinner table, look who's in the middle. Now, if this is the wedding of somebody else, they wouldn't be in dead center.
Where's the? I can't see the. We can't see the photo.
Oh, you can't see it. Oh.
It's a gray screen.
Oh, okay. I don't know how to show you this, but anyway, when you zoom into the close-up of this couple, they both have the halos. So it's supposed to be somebody else's wedding, right? But it isn't.
You mean the wedding at Cana?
Yeah, the wedding at Cana. They had this big, huge scene. It's very rich. It's not like a barn or anything. And there's a bunch of people, and there's a huge U-shaped table, and all these people. And then when you zoom in, the couple both have the halos. You know, it's obviously that they're.
Go back to the photo you had of the couple with the halos before that.
Okay.
It was more of a close-up of them.
Yeah. There's the couple with the halo. Can you see that?
But I still have the black screen up there.
Huh. All right. I'm not sure how to do this. Anyway, did you see this one before? There's a couple with the halo. Can you see that? Anyway, I'm not sure how share screen works in. Oh, it says my share screen is paused. Why is my, okay, so I'm not sure why it's working that way. It's not working very well. All right, I'll just go.
We had it before, but the important part is that no one's too sure, and we're going to focus on the wedding at Cana because it's a pivotal point. Most people know it. That's where the water was turned into wine.
Mm-hmm.
But whether it's Jesus' wedding or not, they were apparently mostly understood to be guests at the wedding. But once you put in the ancient Sumerian texts of the Black Madonna not supposed to be married, and Jerusalem, original name being Ariel, meaning she'll come there dressed as a bride. There it is there. Now it's up. Yeah, you've got it up.
Well, there was another one that had the big, the table with everybody on it. I think I have it.
Like the Last Supper.
No, that was the wedding. And it's not on this page.
And so, and
previous page. Sometimes I put the stuff from previous shows. So no, it doesn't. No, let's see. Scroll down. No. Oh, maybe. Let's see. Okay, here it is. Can you see that?
I see a collage. There we go. Now we got it. Now you've got it.
There's the wedding at Cana. And here's the royal.
Yeah, and who's the artist?
Huh?
Who's the artist?
Paulo Veronese. Paulo Veronese. And I spelled Canaan wrong. And then you see closer up, I took this and I snipped it and I enlarged it. And you can see the couple. And then I took another post. This is a huge table. This is a very rich festival. And then this is the close-up of the couple that's getting married. Now, it's Jesus and Mary, and they both have these halos.
Mary the Magdalene.
Yep.
Yes.
And that's only one. You can take all these. Here's another one. I couldn't get a large one of this. But here's this. I'm not sure. Maybe Anu and Antu came down for the wedding, right? Because there's the king and queen. Now, these are really important people for the king and queen, probably of Nibiru. And here's once again Jesus and Mary. And here was another one.
And who's writing underneath the painting? Jesus, Enki, and Mary, Ninmah. Who's doing that writing?
I did, because I was
Oh!
I thought that was because what other king and queen would be there? It's not Herod.
That's right. And so when you zero in, when the audience zeroes in, the listening audience zeroes in on this painting, you begin to get a visual of what is going on.
Uh-huh.
And so it would be correct that King Anu would come for the wedding, though he's not mentioned in the wedding at Cana in the Gospel of John.
So what king and queen? Here's another rendition. Same thing. Once again.
Yes.
Jesus and Mary and Ninmah, right? They're important.
And a king and queen in the background.
Queen. And there's the water being turned to wine. Yeah. So.
Yes. And so when we go backwards in time, the four gods of Sumer were Jesus, Enki, his now wife, Mary the Magdalene, known as Ninmah.
Yeah, Ninmah. Mm-hmm.
His wife in Sumer was Damkina.
Mm-hmm.
So Ninmah has birthed the Eve in an immaculate conception, and Damkina, Enki's wife, has birthed the Eve. So when Jesus refers to his wife, to Mary Virgin Mary, he's always refers to her as mother, as woman.
Mm-hmm.
He only refers to her as mother when he's at the foot of the cross. And we're not sure what happened to that text, but most of the time he's referring to that woman. That usually refers to your wife,
Mm-hmm.
the star of the sea, because she birthed the first Eve. And that's backed up as if we go forward in time till now. The Geographic Project of National Geographic in 2006 had spent years taking saliva all over the world and proved that all races of the world, this is just 2006, all races of the world can be traced back to one woman.
Mm-hmm.
And the scientist, Spencer Wells, was at the University of Pennsylvania. I was there in the audience that night in 2006. And he said, well, it goes back to one woman, but it's not Eve. Well, I put my hand up and I said, well, doctor, it kind of sounds like Eve. And he would not give in. The liberal, professors are all there of liberal arts are there in the audience. They won't believe in the Bible for nothing. But so it has been proven using DNA that all the races go back to one woman just 200,000 years ago. And so that's not enough time. Dr. Spencer Wells, one of the leading geneticists in the world, was picked by National Geographic. He was trained at Stanford, Harvard, and at Cambridge. And so what they're saying is there's no doubt that it goes back to one woman 200,000 years ago, but then the mitochondrial trail of the female stops, Janet. It stops. It doesn't go back to the ape, as if something happened.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened was Ningishita, the sun, identified the second chromosome. Ape being, if it's Sasquatch, I don't know, whoever this ape being was, had 48 chromosomes, 24 from the male, 24 from the female. And so somebody, and Greg Braden has said this, science has proven today that this can't happen naturally. Somebody spliced the second and third chromosome. So the mother had 23 and the father had 23, giving human beings 46 chromosomes starting 200,000 BC and coming forward.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why Virgamara is the mother of Eve, and Eve, of course, gives birth to all the children. All the Eves keep going, right? The mother to daughter, mother to daughter, and those Eves carry it right up till today. And then the Black Madonna, Ninmah, birthed the first Adam. And then she's crossed out of the picture. When the Catholic Church gets hold of the story from the Knights Templar, they have now changed the texts and eliminated the Black Madonna.
Oh.
And that was the secret of the Cathars in 1244, when the Vatican went after them on top of that Mount Segura in southwestern France, and crucified them in the first Holocaust of recorded history, if you don't count Jerusalem, I guess. In 66 AD, they wiped the place out.
Mm-hmm.
But Mount Segura was a Holocaust of all the people in that citadel, but they had managed to get something out of Mount Segura before it was taken down, and that was the parchments that went down into the Church of Mary Magdalene. And then they were found 700 years later, that was 1244, so 650 years later, in the late 1800s, they were found in the leg of an altar in that church. So this is a complicated story.
It is.
trying to follow what happened from Sumer, 4 gods from Sumer, that was Ninmah, Enki, El, and Damkina, wander over into Cairo, into Egypt, and they become the Sion. Enki becomes Set Enoch, and Leal becomes Osiris, the black. There you have it right there. El became the black because he had the daughter out of wedlock. He had Ninurta, the son out of wedlock.
Mhm.
So you have Set Enoch, Isis, Osiris, and Nephthys. And Nephthys is Damkina, the wife of Set Enoch, the wife of Enoch, the wife of Enki. Right? Enki, Set Enoch, Set Den, and then became Set Den. So it's the same 4 gods in Egypt, and that dominated the Mediterranean. It even dominated Jerusalem to the point that Osiris was the god of Jerusalem, guarding over this wedding site that was being prepared by Enki for centuries. That's where he was planning to marry
So what do you
the Black Madonna.
have you tracked down how this story came to be? Because they call this the virgin birth, and the angel visited, and that's really just a warping of the the genetic experiments in the South Africa, which resulted in Homo sapiens. And it somehow, but even look at what they did here. They've got all these angels in the sky. I mean, it's just interesting how things worked. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, so this is why you're so good. When you get to the shining beings, when you look at those paintings, they have a halo around their head where the head is shining.
Uh-huh.
They're known as the shining beings, or the angels. So, some Jewish scholars interpret it as angels, and this is all where these angels and cherubim. This is where it all comes from.
Mm-hmm.
When you go back to Sumer, to these 4 gods that were there, Enki, his wife Damkina, and Leal, and the half-sister, the Black Madonna. And in that period, there's a book called The Genius of the Few. My girlfriend just gave it to me yesterday for Christmas. I had it 6 years ago and left it somewhere, and just got it again yesterday. And it's the shining beings. And they've produced an Adam and an Eve, and they've placed them in the Garden of Eden. And the focus in the Garden of Eden story is on Eve. And 2 gentlemen show up. One is known as Yahweh, and the other one is, for all of recorded history, has been known as the serpent.
Right.
But now this scholar and a scholar named Michael HeZeus in the United States, a Jewish scholar, are indicating that the term used in ancient Hebrew for the serpent is not correct. In Hebrew, you only have consonants. The kuk, fa, va, and you put vowels in there. Well, depending on what your point of view is, you might put an O, or I might put an A, and it changes the interpretation of the words. So now their scholars are saying, and 2 of them, one in England and one in Washington State, have said that Eve was not talking to a serpent. She was talking to Hanakash, the shining one.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the noun serpent. That term Hanakash means serpent, and it's a noun.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever the hell that means, a serpentine being. But they're saying, both researchers are saying the same thing, that it's the shining one. And it's not any shining one. There were many shining ones back then. What shining ones? I don't know what that means, Janet. It's a murky text. This is why you're seeing these halos around their heads of the shining being. And one of the key things that Jesus did was he transfigured on the mountain.
Right.
He shone. He shone, right?
So he apparently went up and went and saw the ship, and then he transfigured. Maybe he went into the ship, or maybe, yeah, that it's.
We don't. That's right. There could have been a flash of light, and away he went. We don't know what happened.
Mm-hmm.
The point is, when you look at those halos that you brought out, that's the starting of the shining experience.
Apparently, they have.
And so
it was that their eyes were so. First of all, their energy is really high, and it's hard for people to be around it. It seems like they're like maybe even a different vibratory frequency or something. Because some people pass out. They're overwhelmed. Look at this one. This picture of Jesus when he went to the Americas. This is from the Mormon, and he's got a halo, and he's much. Look at George Washington and Benjamin Franklin. He's a giant.
yes, he's a gigante. Use the right term. He's a gigante.
Gigante.
Because when you say giant, you think of the one-eyed Cyclops that David killed, right?
Oh no, I just think.
But when you go to gigantes, they're just very tall people.
Right.
They're not some monster with one eye. You can't, and this is one of the reasons why the story's there of the one-eyed monster, of Goliath, to throw you off the track. That your great point that the Jesus there is about 8 feet tall.
Right. And there's several. One of these days I'm just going to compile all the pictures. You can research Jesus pictures and Mary pictures, and if you put them all together one after the other, or you storyboard it, you go, wow, this is a whole new picture here. So, and you tie it to the Anunnaki, of course, there's an 8-foot being. But I think they're even taller. I don't have all the pictures showing the height differences, like in the cuneiform.
Yeah, the average female from Planet X was 12 feet tall, and the average male was 15 feet tall.
Right. So this is even a scaled down version, because I guess they wanted to get it all on the artist rendition. If you had a 12 feet tall being, and the humans around him,
His shoulders would be the top of the painting.
Right. Yeah. And then let's see, this one here. This is I should get the paintings they come from. But what's with the satellite?
Where are you?
Oh, this one here. Can you see it? It's
yeah, the globe in the middle.
And they've got this round sphere with two, it's like a satellite, like Sputnik or something. And they're supposed to be in heaven with this thing. Do you see it?
Yes.
I'll do a PowerPoint sometime, and we'll have all these pictures, and we just go through it. So, so that's probably Father Anu and the Son of Man, Jesus, who is Enki. Anyway.
So when we go back to the wedding at Cana, then if people know their Anunnaki history on this planet X that's outside Pluto, and now Michael Brown at Caltech Astronomy Labs, they've proven mathematically that planet X is there outside Pluto. That was 2016. And now they're building a telescope next year to actually see this thing. I think it's going to be in Hawaii, Jen. This new telescope they're building to help find this planet X outside of Pluto. Huh?
Is that the one on the Big Island? I think it's the one on the Big Island. Yeah.
Yes. So what had happened was the planet X comes through here, through near our sun and around Jupiter and into our area of the solar system once every 3,500 years, but it goes the other way. And then one of its passes, its moon cracked into the Earth when we used to be outside of Mars, the asteroid belt. And the asteroid belt, when they collect it all up where it exists, is about the size of the Pacific Ocean crust, where now there's only the Marianas Trench there. The deepest part of the Earth crust is the Marianas Trench in the Pacific Ocean, where this moon came through and cleaved the Earth. So we're only 3/5 of a planet. Cleaved, in their language, became Kia, became geo, and that's where we get geology and geography from. And we were knocked from outside of Mars, we're knocked inside of Mars as a planet cracked on the Pacific Ocean side, wobbling in space. And astronomers know there can't be a planet third from the sun where Earth is. There can't be one mathematically. And there has to be one between Mars and Jupiter. And that was Sitchin's brilliant work.
Mm-hmm.
That we were knocked inside of Mars where we're wobbling. And when they hit us, they had to come and get gold to repair their atmosphere. So Earth, Canada and Africa in particular are loaded with gold.
Great. And then Tellinger's work.
And the water.
The mine in Africa.
Pardon?
Michael Tellinger has the whole piece.
Yeah, and just a ton more of gold there that they're mining. Tellinger found those mines at 100,000 BC, the mines of South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And my assertion is that those are the mines of King Solomon. They were in South Africa and they were in Peru. So somebody in Jerusalem, in this Ur of Salem, called Ariel, this global center after this wedding was in, somebody there knew where the gold was. And so King Solomon had hooked up with the Queen of Sheba. And the Queen of Sheba was bringing the gold from South Africa by the cartload into Jerusalem.
So was
She's the Queen of the South.
You think that Solomon was Enki?
Yes, and it's a complicated history, but you have to first follow the four gods from Sumer. Enki, Cana, they're married. Osiris, his wife. But then the other one is the Black Madonna, not yet married. But Enlil and Enki loved her since their youth.
Mm-hmm.
Then they come into Cairo, become Set, Isis, Osiris, and Nephthys, the prairie of Sion. But then what happened in Cairo was that Osiris attacked Damkina, the wife of Enki, sexually. And when that happens in their culture, down come their pants, out come the knives, and you go after, an eye for an eye. Well, this is a penis for a penis.
So Osiris.
So
who is Osiris again? Which character is he?
He's Enlil, the black, because it's Osiris the Black.
So
he's known as Osiris the Black. So he's Enlil.
And he once again attacked Ninmah.
He attacked Damkina.
Oh, he attacked Damkina.
The wife of Enki.
Okay.
The wife of Enki. The mother of Eve.
Married yet? Now, let me ask you a question. Did Enki keep Damkina, or did they have an equivalent of a divorce, or was he allowed to have?
No, I think they stayed together. In their planet, you could have multiple wives.
So it was just an additional wife. Okay. And he only had one wife up until that point.
Well, let's go backwards to the story at the very start. Remember, there was civil war on Planet X, and Anu and King Alalu had a civil war,
right.
And they solved it by saying, "Well, we won't go after each other's penis. Right. We will have the first son of Anu to marry the first daughter of Alalu."
Which was
Eloh's daughter was Cana.
Mhm.
And so Enki wisely ran over and married Cana. So it's not a marriage of love, it's a marriage of royal um,
Mhm.
convenience. It's a contract to get to the throne.
Right.
But then he could have love affairs, and he always, always, always loved, since his youth, the Black Madonna.
Yeah.
As did Enlil, that they ended up having the affair. And that's how they became the Black Osiris and the Black Madonna, never to marry. So
So
this whole like matrimonial thing is going on in ancient Cairo.
so then they have the battle. Now, who are the characters? There's Osiris, which is Enlil, and
Osiris sexually assaulted the wife of Enki, Cana, the mother of Eve. Enki wins the battle because he cuts off Osiris's penis, cuts him into 14 pieces, and his girlfriend at that time is the Black Madonna, known as Isis, the ancient goddess Isis.
now is Isis Ninmah?
And yes, and Isis, Ninmah, is so horrified, she goes and finds the 14 parts and puts them back together. She resurrects him. He was killed on a Friday, Osiris, and resurrected on a Sunday.
So she reassembles him.
But she can't find the penis.
Oh my goodness.
So this is why Osiris Yahweh is a little bit pissed off. He's in a bad mood a lot. But what happens, and the great scholar in England of the book, The Temple of Revelation, I'll think of her name in a second. I haven't done this work in a while, but she wondered why then Isis resurrects her lover, can't find the penis, and then suddenly takes off from Cairo with the assassin. She takes off. Enki becomes Set Enoch. Set NK. His name's NK. NK with vowels becomes Enoch. He becomes Set Enoch. Satan.
Oh.
And his name is blackened. He's the Satan because he took off with the concubine of Osiris, the Black, who was ruling the whole area.
Uh-huh.
But where do they go, Janet? They take off for Jerusalem.
Mm-hmm.
And my theory is that Enki appears there as Jesse, the father of King David. He sires King David. I'm not sure who the mother of King David is. Then he marries David's daughter and becomes King Solomon.
Mm-hmm.
Solomon is not the natural son of David. He's the son-in-law, because Solomon was known to marry the Pharaoh's daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're in Jewish lore, David's a great Jewish king. But if you were in Arabic history, David's name is Susenes. He's a pharaoh. It's the same guy. In one culture language, he's the pharaoh. In the other one, he's the king. But it's the same guy. And Solomon married the pharaoh's daughter. He married David's daughter, the Makatamar, they're called. And David and so Enki was the father of David and was his son-in-law.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the Revelations in the Bible, it says, the last line is, I am the father and son of David.
Mm-hmm.
And there you have it in a nutshell.
Right. So did Enlil ever get his penis back? Osiris.
And marrying David's daughter and double pumping his sperm into his very advanced sperm into the line of David.
Right.
And the line of David is not Jewish. It's from Planet X. And it goes into Germany to the Sicambrian Franks, who became the French eventually. And there it gets hooked up with the Sicambrian Franks. And they became, those children, those diaspora became the Merovingian kings.
And
that's the true royal family of Europe.
And that's why they brought Diana in. Because they had to bring that in.
You're so good. You're so good.
What can I say?
That's right.
Yeah.
But when Diana, because Diana died in Palma, D''Alma, the bridge of the tunnel of Isis, trying to sacrifice this lineage, this bloodline, this female energy, and get back this magic bloodline through sacrifice that existed in the Merovingian kings.
So now that's back in the royals, and they have another generation.
Trying to get legitimacy because
right.
She was heading toward Dodi Fayud. Diana was heading toward Dodi Fayud.
Wait, you're breaking up. I'm not sure why we're having a bad connection, but okay.
And the ancient Arabic. Again, the pharaohs of Egypt were also Jewish kings. Just depends who's telling the story.
So the Jewish people.
That's Ralph Ellis's work.
Are Yahweh's and those people? Is that the two different?
Let's stay with the line of David. Depends how you associate to the line of David.
Right.
The Jews who are the chosen people of the world want to believe that there were two very famous kings, David and then Solomon. Right. In Jerusalem, which is about 200 miles outside of Cairo. It's a suburb of Cairo. But they can't find, modern archaeologists, Frank Finkelstein, since 1945, can't find any evidence at all of Jewish kings, David and his son Solomon. But Ralph Ellis, who wrote a book called Solomon Falcon of Sheba, he found their sarcophagus of David and Solomon in Egyptian burial grounds. The photographs are in his book. So they're Egyptian. This is all Egyptian, but the Jews today don't want to have anything to do with the Arabs. And the Arabs don't want to have anything to do with Jewish. And this fight was created in downtown London, England, when the Balfour Declaration declared that Jerusalem should be given back to the Zionist Jews from Poland. Now, you can't think of a wilder story than bringing Polish Jews into Jerusalem who never ever lived there. And they're not Arabic either.
Right.
Jesse, the Serpentine, the father of David is Serpentine. Now, people listen to that and they go, well, what the hell does that mean? Well, we don't really know because the work is just being done now. They're a lizard of some kind, and this is where I go back to this book called The Genius of the Few by Christian O'Brien, which I'm just rereading this morning and yesterday. He talks about the lizard people. And David Icke in England talks about the lizard, about Elizabeth being a lizard.
Let me go back. Because you said that at the Garden of Eden that was a misinterpretation, that it really wasn't a lizard, it wasn't the snake that visited Eve. It was a misinterpretation of the word.
Yes.
So are we continuing?
Of the shining. Ha-Nakash is the shiny one, not the word. He's the shining one. It's called Ha-Nakash.
So are we still talking about lizard years down the line when we talk about
Yeah.
Or are we talking about just shining people? The shining one.
Well, it seems to be the lizard faction wants him to be a lizard, and the other group wants him to be the shining hero
So,
who taught Eve knowledge. Eve went with the one who had the knowledge. Hanakash was offering her knowledge, atomic theory, genetics, the whole nine, how to bake cookies. He was giving her knowledge, but all the other ones,
uh-huh.
huh?
She's a scientist.
All Yahweh was offering.
Knowledge.
Yeah, yeah. To create Eve, he didn't teach the Adam this. He taught the Eve this.
Mm-hmm.
And so Yahweh just wanted her to be smart enough to have more kids
Mm-hmm.
who could mine the gold. You can put a mark on their forehead, but don't make the mark any more intelligent than the miner.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But what happened in this ancient story of Eve, they created Eve, and she was birthed from Cana. Vergamara is the mother of Eve. Then she had two daughters, and Enki, Saint Germain, Jesus, it's all the same guy.
Mm-hmm.
He has sex with those two daughters.
Right.
And puts his advanced sperm of a royal being from planet X into those two daughters, creating Homo sapien sapien.
That's right.
And now we have a very advanced female race, in which case, Yahweh went cuckoo when he found out that Enki put his sperm into this race. Never mind, they had some kind of a Sasquatch or something mixed with the ape. We don't know what that entity was that mixed to make Homo sapien. But the texts are clear. Enki put his royal sperm into the daughters of Eve, creating Homo sapien sapien,
Right.
a very advanced race. And that's when Yahweh said, that's it, flood the earth, we're going home.
Well, did he say that, or did he just say, don't warn them and let this natural catastrophe? Was the Noah's flood natural because of the passing of Nibiru and the pole shift, and so it gets interpreted two ways, that he's like it, and yeah, let's unleash.
I don't think we're clear. We're not clear on who did this. Could you possibly cause a flood around the world? Did the Earth have a polar flip? A pole shift that would turn it either 180 degrees.
I'm in that camp.
Hmm?
It was a natural, because
Yeah, and so the audience can see it. You're seeing it now all over the world. The stars aren't where they used to be. The Earth's starting to roll over.
Mm-hmm.
The North Pole is moving over from 23.5 degrees. It's rolling. The Earth's rolling now. And it's raining all over the world, and the North and South Pole are melting, flooding the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a slow flood. Some say it happens quickly in 72 hours. Some say it takes 90 years.
We don't know.
So back then, we're not too sure what happened, but we do know the Earth was flooded. Whether it was 6,000 BC, Christian O'Brien in Genesis the Few says it was 6,500 BC. What's his name? Graham Hancock says it was 11,200. Doesn't really matter.
Sasha.
They flooded the earth. But what happened was, when they flooded the earth, Ninmah went to Enki, her lover, and said, look, save my children. Save the man and the woman that I created. That Cana had the Eve and I had the Adam. Save them.
Mm-hmm.
And so Enki, who's the father of mankind, father of Homo sapien, not mankind, but the father of Homo sapien, sapien,
Mm-hmm.
he then goes around the world and builds the altars in stone, the pyramids all over the world with safety chambers underneath them. And there's thousands of them.
Right.
The earth is flooded. Huh?
The pyramids are a global system, and that was what put the lights on in Luxor. They were with the obelisk and the pyramids, and so that was their energy grid, just like we have electricity and satellites. They had an energy.
Yeah, to
That's
keep the place, to keep the lights on. But underneath those pyramids are thousands of chambers of safety.
right.
The Great Pyramid of Giza is a pump, and it will pump water from those chambers underneath. It will pump it out as a sprinkler. When you want a sprinkler, when there's a drought going on in the Nile, they have a sprinkler system because the Great Pyramid was tied to the Nile River through underground chamber, underground passageway. They know this today.
Right.
And so that's the sprinkler, but it would also keep the people underneath safe from drowning. And when the people emerged from underneath the pyramids, boy, oh boy, was Yahweh mad. Because now Jesus's lines all over the world, Enki's lines, his lineage, is all over the world now. Don't forget, Enki was the Lord of the Sea and South Africa. And El was given the land so the two sons wouldn't fight.
Right.
And now Jesus' lineage, Enki's lineage, is coming onto the land. He's appearing at the River Jordan to marry Ninmah, but he's appearing in Lake Titicaca to the Aztecs. He came out of Lake Titicaca, some blue-eyed guy with a cape, saying he's the Prince of Peace, with his half sister, Mama Okla. In Enki, in Aztec lore, Manco Capac and Mama Okla came out of Lake Titicaca the way Jesus came up the River Jordan to teach the people from water's edge. And where was Jesus? At the water's edge. Where is Manco Capac? At water's edge in Aztecs. He shows up in China as Fuxi and his half-sister Nuhua. Now, Janet, you've got the half-sister, because don't forget, Enki marries his half-sister, the Magdalene, or the Black Madonna, at Jerusalem, known as Ariel. He's marrying his half-sister. He's married the half-sister in Peru. He's married the half-sister in China.
So
it has to be the same guy.
Of course. So I had a couple questions. Okay. So there's all these things in the North America, right? In Canada and all through North America. You have all these mounds and everything. Do we have any stories?
Serpentine mounds in Ohio, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I remember as a child, I'd take a hike through the woods and there's this giant mound. And we're kids and it's like, nobody talks about this. What's this mound in the middle of the forest? And we knew it was not a natural thing. It was like, wow.
You knew. What state were you in? What state?
I was in Pennsylvania. And
yeah, Ohio. I was in the Ohio border.
right.
The Ohio border with Pennsylvania is where one of the serpentine mounds is. Yeah.
Oh, it was a mound. There were just mounds everywhere. It was just a random mound. And it could have been a tiny pyramid, but over the centuries it was kind of rounded. It was not a mountain. It was not natural. We knew even as children, what is this?
You knew.
Why did they?
We're talking 1960s.
In the 60s, yeah. Mm-hmm. So
you knew.
I encountered it with my friends. We went on a bike hike, and then we would get off and just take little treks into the woods because we liked being in nature. And yeah, so, but so I just wondered, we'll have to have Michael Lee Hill on sometime with you, and we'll deconstruct what happened. But you're working with indigenous people, and I'm just wondering if you're getting the stories about what happened according to them after the flood. I mean, this
is again. I've told somebody who's on the call that why you're so darn good. When I became a lawyer in Toronto, I was renewed my license when I was 60 years old. I went north into the middle of Ontario to meet the clan mother to figure out what was going on, and I sat there, Janet, for 6 hours in total shock at what I was told that they in northern Ontario, so about 2.5 hours north of Toronto, they knew that human beings came from Ethiopia 200,000 years ago from one woman. They had carried those stories, mother to daughter, mother to daughter, mother to daughter, for 2 200,000 years. And now it's proven by DNA, modern DNA has proven using saliva tests that we all came from one woman in Ethiopia 200,000 years ago. And when I brought that into a court, and I forget why I brought it into a court, but the judge, his head almost snapped off his shoulders. Like they couldn't understand what the hell I was talking about.
You go back on the screen, we've got you in the corner. There we
Yep.
go. You were falling off the screen.
Yep.
So you took it into court, and the judge lost his head. Yeah. And then
the judges say it's irrelevant. It was irrelevant to who owns the planet. And I said, well, just a minute, Judge. My client was a Coast Salish woman from British Columbia, from outside Vancouver. And the Coast Salish owned the whole western coast of Washington, Oregon, and British Columbia today. Mm-hmm. And that was the Oregon Treaty, where the US President Polk and the Queen of England, Queen Victoria, they just stole the land. They signed the Oregon Treaty of 1846 and just stole it. This woman's grandmother had never signed the treaty. So it's the females that...
Elizabeth came in, what was that Elizabeth did in the 50s where she was taking the children from their tribes? Was that...
Yes. Oh my God.
Supposed to do?
They're called the Kamloops BC, the Kamloops kids.
Uh-huh.
And she came in and she took 10 children. She and Philip were dressed in street clothes, overcoats and street clothes, and guided 10 children out of that camp in 1964, I think, and they were never seen again. It's called the Kamloops kids.
Well, there's this whole act.
How do you know these things in Hawaii?
Well, we have a friend, and one of Sasha's friends, and she said how she was with her the women in her tribe, and she was about 5 years old, and the troops just came in and took her, and they took all the children all throughout Canada, all from all the tribes, and they bunched them like thousands and thousands, and put them in Catholic schools, and they killed their culture. And
raped them, and murdered them, and sold them on the black market, the pedophilia market. They fetch top dollar.
Someone just got raised by them because she's alive, right? But their whole culture was, they no longer had a history. They no longer had a connection to their tribes. They were stolen and raised in this thing, and maybe they got adopted. But it was horrible what they did because she never saw her mother, her aunts, her grandmothers, nobody. Never. So
yeah, there's a case here. There's a case here called Brown versus. It's a case in Ontario called Brown versus Canada, and the judge was my contracts professor at law school, a gold medal student, and he said at paragraph 4, 60,000 children just vanished. He didn't say they were adopted out, that they kind of got lost somewhere. They just vanished.
Well, she was one of them, and she was in the house, and she said, I decided to go back as a young woman in my 30s and 40s and just find a tribe to live with. So she went back to the mainland, United States, and she lived with a tribe for like 14 years so she could get back some of her culture. But she said there was thousands of them. They weren't killed. They were absorbed into the white world. They no longer knew who they were.
To trounce this ancient truth that I'm part of the Métis Nation, which are part indigenous and part European, mixed bloods, and that the Métis indigenous side came from Peru, where they said that the angels, the ones who came down from the heavens of the Andes Mountains and had sex with their women, giving them special powers.
Right.
Of God knows what the hell it means, other dimensions you can travel to, who knows? And so these children became very, very valuable. And my theory is that with adrenochrome, these women, these children, they're trying to scare the bejeebers out of them and then rape them or wherever else their blood, I don't know what the hell they're doing with them. They're looking for this molecule, this adrenochrome molecule that will either give them immortality, or you can travel to other dimensions. I mean, if you go to the dimensions, it's you're in immortality, right? You just go and come back, and no time has gone by.
Right.
So this is the ancient secrets that are now crystallizing in my mind, because I'm taught these things. I have to like organize this in my head. Of the ancient Eve was tied to the earth. The females are magnetic, and the Earth's Mother Earth is magnetic. And there was an astrophysicist named Stanton Friedman. He's dead now. He was from the eastern side of Canada, from New Brunswick.
Mm-hmm.
He's been on George Norrie many times. Right. And he said at the lecture I saw in Toronto, I was at a live lecture with George Norrie when he came here. And Stanton Friedman said, we need to get a machine, Janet, that can take us, like a rocket machine using magnetics, not jet propulsion fuel. And afterward, I met a girl who became a good friend of mine. We both said, it seems to me it's the female. And in the ancient Egyptian texts, in my book 3, I go through sacred sex. The female can produce something on the 14th day and the 28th day of her cycle, if she's eating well. And that substance she produces in her yoni, in her clitoris, she can produce this substance that is intergalactic. It's called the Ormus molecule, ORMUS. And it's there in the ancient texts, right. if you bother to go look.
Well, as a tantra teacher.
The young females at 14 were extremely valuable as slaves. And they came to Montreal and Quebec City and wiped the place out.
Yeah.
John Cabot and these explorers that came, within 20 years, they'd wiped out Montreal, which had 30,000 people and a very advanced culture there, and stole them and took them wherever the hell they took them to rape the women.
So
and it's rape, but they're looking. But the people who are behind the scenes are looking for something. They know who they're looking for.
Let me add to
young indigenous children.
Let me add to that. So in Tantra, you can get into an orgasmic state and you produce the Amrita, and you could travel, someone like me. When I get into that state, I go out of body. I've always been able to astrally travel and go out of body. Now, Nigashita Thoth talks about in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth that he was able to leave his body. He learned this from the, what do you call it, the Galzu. They were at the, I forget the name of it. Anyway, he discovered them. They were interdimensional beings living in the inner earth, right? So he discovered them. And the Halls of Menti, that's what's called, the Halls of Menti. And he became an acolyte, and he studied with them, and they taught him how to leave his body and travel through the universe. And then he describes in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth how he did that. So when I was doing my practice in getting into this orgasmic state, I could go through, and so I was traveling through the cosmos, and I would just, and so I'm in this state, and I'm telling Sasha that I'm encountering these different beings, and so the space is full of ships, of people. So I was able to contact them, and then he'd invite me to have them speak through me without taking me over. It wasn't open for possession. So I was channeling them, but thought that they were dead or anything. They were just speaking through using my voice box. So we did that for about 20 years. I didn't allow anybody to record it because I was too shy, but I think that's what they're able to do.
One of the greatest discoveries of all time. One of the greatest discoveries of all time. It's the Philosopher's Stone. It was only ever done by Nicholas Flamel, who was in Harry Potter, book 1, I think. I don't follow Harry Potter, but Nicholas Flamel is the only one who achieved the great work of the Masons, and he did it in the late 1300s. And Janet, he did it with his wife. So either she's an astrophysicist, or she's really good in bed. It's one of the two.
Right. Yeah.
But that's who he said he did it with, his wife. And so here you've done it, 600 years later, and all females listening to the show can achieve this, especially now. You're a harbinger because we're in the age of Aquarius.
Right. Right.
We're not in the age of Pisces, Enki, Saint Germain. Those days are over.
Right.
Jesus' days are over as the patriarchal head of whatever they made him. I mean, the Vatican did this to him. He didn't do it.
So the other thing,
But my message is that.
um, so yeah, so this is possible, and this can be taught, and women can do it, and it does take some sensitivity because it's reconnecting the divine feminine and masculine, and that's why he did it with his wife. But you can't do it if you're cruel or you have to be. It takes time to be.
The male has to surrender to the female and
Yeah.
follow her directions. The female knows what she's doing. She's just too shy. You just said it. It's in my books already. So book 3, it's in there. She's too shy to direct him because stupid's not listening. There's a guy here named Red. This guy named Red here. He's 3,000-year-old energy. He's indigenous. He's a trans channel. He comes through 2 women, one here near our home and one somewhere else in the world. And he said sex now is the male charges in full bore, the female seizes up, right? And now you've got this confrontation in the bedroom of total seizure, like almost like a galactic battle going on.
Right.
Instead of the male just surrendering to the female the way Dr. Lessin taught me 5 years ago, you spend 1 hour orally on each chakra.
Right.
Remember that phone call 5 years ago?
I do. Well, we're probably
Yeah, and you fill each chakra.
Right.
What's that?
We're probably going to do a virtual tantra class because, of course, of COVID and stuff, and we've got a lot of time home alone. So I'm working. One reason I'm testing this Zoom is to see if we can do this. So we've had a fairly good connection. But anyway,
I think they're talking about 2 things: why there's no connection allowed anymore, and I mean I had people come to me from an internet date, and he was about 53 and she was in her mid 40s. They just met that night. They had sex that night, and as they were having intercourse, he flies out of his body, and then she flies out of her body.
right.
They zoom back in, doesn't matter how much longer later, because it's probably the next minute on Earth, but they've gone for who knows how long. And he zooms back in, hits the pillow. She zooms back in and hits the pillow. They look at each other, get dressed, and never see each other again. They didn't know what the hell had happened. And this is happening all over the world.
So it's time to educate. So that's one part. Now I wanted to get back to what you were saying about the reptilians and David Icke. And I know David. He stayed at our house for a month back in the early around 2005 or 6. I forget which year it was. He and his wife Pamela were here. Now, so how did the Anunnaki get mixed up with the reptilians? So there's all kinds of stories that have sprung. They said that Enki was really a reptilian and he was married to some other. Enki's mother was different than Antu, right? And so there were Ninmah and Enlil had a different mother than Enki, and so they were trying to explain this. People were trying to explain this, right? And apparently there was a reptilian species that went into the inner earth, one of the passings of Nibiru, one of the pole shifts. And so they were down there for a long time and they're coming up and they're trying to reclaim the earth. So we have those stories. We have stories of, the queen being a reptile, and David Icke and all those shape-shifting stuff. What do you think about all that? I mean, this gets mixed up with the
We went to South Africa. My girlfriend and I, Kim, we went to South Africa in the fall of 2018 to an 8-night campfire from a gentleman who Adamu, who says that he was the original being that escaped from Lyra, the star system Lyra. This is billions of years ago.
Right.
And he went into the lake there to avoid the exploding planets because the place was a catastrophe. He went into the lake, and when he emerged on Earth, in the Pacific or Atlantic Ocean, doesn't matter. And so he tells the story of what he remembers of the last 50 billion years,
So
which for them is...
You met a human being?
Pardon?
Yeah. You met this person that said that he was...
He's reincarnated. He's reincarnated. Yeah. And he has this memory, like your friend there has the memory from her Anunnaki days.
Yeah.
And he's telling the story that when Lyra blew up, we went to Orion, some of us, and the Orions learned banking. And some went to Aldebaran, some went to the Pleiades star system. They came here, and then they got mixed up with the dragons and the draconians, which are different, the lizards, and this whole mess going on. But the most amazing part about the story was that this black dragon offered himself to be a weapon against the dragons, who were not a lot of fun. And he killed a lot of them. He was shot out of a cannon thing, and he killed a lot of them on this path he took, this trajectory. Then he glanced off one or two of them, as I understand the story, and he ends up in the Yucatan. He's the meteor that came scorching through here that killed off the dinosaurs, which were a draconian experiment, or a dragon. It's hard to keep them apart, the Draco and the... It was only on this last week. And the dragon. So he ends up zooming into that big hole in the Yucatan, and now he's in the earth, incubating, healing for 50 billion years, and he's starting to emerge 60 years ago. And you can hear his groans in the mountains of China. And all the rain going all over the world, it's raining all over the world, right? Are the placenta breaking. It's the water breaking of a birthing of this dragon.
He's a dragon.
It's the wildest story.
Well, let me add to this. I'm interviewing this guy.
No, wait. Before you do, Janet, we've not talked in a year, right? We've not talked in 1 year.
No, we haven't talked in a year.
No email, nothing.
Nothing, no.
So this is my story. This is what Kim learned last week or 2 weeks ago. We were there 2 years ago,
right?
In Africa. But this is he does lectures, period. So this is what she told me last week that she learned when I was at work. And so now that's it. And we haven't talked. So go ahead.
So this, and this is this some person I can talk to via email? Is he still alive? He's here.
Oh yeah. He's a Dutch fellow. He's about in his 60s, I guess. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So anyway,
I'll send you the connection. I had
this fellow, Roger Spur of Mud Fossil University, and he's got these images of fossilized dragons, and one is the northern part of Africa. So he shows you this dragon, and he has examined the structure. So he'll zoom into it from Google Earth, and he'll say, here's the dragon's throat, and you follow it down, and here's the stomach, and here's the fluid that they... And so it died like in this battle, and now it's become the earth, and these people, there's cities built on top of it. This is how huge these are. These dragons are thousands of miles.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, before you say any more, they're about the size of at least of Manhattan Island.
Well, some are even larger, but of course they're different sizes.
Right.
And so anyway, he was going down around the earth, and he says, "Here's another one." He zooms in, and so he is examining tissue. So a lot of the mountains and the rivers and it's living tissue. So he's taken samples, and he sent them to a lab, and it's DNA. It's living DNA. We think that they are rocks and mountains, but everything was alive. So he says, even your meteors were alive. They came in here. So he's backing your story, that this guy's story that
Yeah, this dragon, this black dragon was a meteor. He was a meteor, and he's alive.
right. And so when
I didn't make this up. Kim found out last week. What?
When I was doing one of my tantric rituals where I was going out of my body, I'm out in space, and I encounter dragon. So I allowed dragon to come through, and he was like, "I am dragon." He spoke really slow, so I allowed him to speak through me, and so these some of them are planet sized. You know, they are in space is huge, right? And that's their ocean,
Yes.
their sky, and then later I encountered the one that's I called the dragon at the center of the earth. And when I was on Johnson A.
What? Wait. What? 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 Again?
I'm writing this book because this is what happened to me. I encountered the dragon at the center of time, or I call it that because it's in the inner earth, right? When I was on Johnson Atoll.
Inner earth, of earth, of the earth.
I was on Johnson Atoll in 1995 to 97. And when I was there, they took me to a ritual, which was under the water. And then I think we went further down. There was I was wearing some kind of shoes that I could walk really fast because I'm only 5'2". It would have taken forever. So every step I took, I was zooming, right? And all these Anunnaki came in behind me, and we ended up going into the inner earth, and we encounter a female dragon. She's the size of Smog from Lord of the Rings. I mean, she's gigantic. And so in order for us to do this ritual, she projects an avatar of herself down so she's standing right in front of me. And we looked into each other's eyes, and at that point there was a merging of our consciousness, and we opened up the Stargate. Now, I'm not the only one that's done this. Peter Moon talks about in Bosnia, in that pyramid. So apparently there was some kind of sacred place I was at, and somehow, because I'm a tantric person or whatever it was, because I hadn't found Dr. Lessin at that point, but I'm talking about the magical children, like why they kidnap these people. So I'm of this Merovingian line, apparently, and so I was able to open a portal. So when I was walking down to the location where the ceremony was going to happen, all these tall, and they kept getting taller. They started out like 6, 7, 8 feet tall, and they would come in behind me as I'm walking, and I'm in a dress, a gorgeous gown, like from the Henry VIII period or something. It's emerald and has all these gems, and the shoes are like gems, and they're coming in and they're saying telepathically, is she the one in Sister Day? Is she the key? Is she the key? And I'm like, what? But I just kept walking, and at the end, like, they were 20 feet tall or 30 feet tall. I couldn't even see. It was just, but it was a huge cavern. So anyway, I ended up down there. Apparently I was a key. I stood in this circle of light. There was an Abyssinian wall. It was tall, way above my head, and it dissolved, and then it showed the portal, showed the dragon at the center of the earth. And so I did this ritual with her, and she said, I am your mother, even though I look nothing like you. You are my children. And then everybody asked questions, and it was like I was a CPU, right? And it went through me, and it went into her, and she answered the questions, and went into the cosmos, and I was like outside time and space, and everything that was being asked was being answered at the same quote unquote time, right? And then, of course, I don't remember being returned, except for the last second. They took me back to my bed, and they plopped me down, and then they did something. It was like an air thing, and they kind of made me just. I was still, and then they left, and the Greys delivered me. The Greys took me to this ritual, and they delivered me back. And then as soon as they left, I could feel them leaving. Although I wasn't able to open my eyes, I could feel them, because there's always a pressure shift when they leave. And then my alarm went off, and I was able to move my eyes, and I was furious. I said, "Oh my God, I've got to go to work and act normal." I had to get up and work a 10-hour day and act normal. And this is on Johnson Atoll, which is where in 2009 they had a meeting. Dr. Michael Solo wrote about this meeting they had. So they're having these meetings with different extraterrestrial species, and that was after Obama took office. So now, anyway, I've been piecing all this together, and that whole thing traumatized me. I had to leave my job. I got a honorable discharge. They let me go. I said, I can't stay there, because that was just over the edge. And my boyfriend, who was taken with me, he was my witness. He said, I said, that wasn't real, was it? And he goes, oh no, we were there. And so anyway, but the dragon ties in with this mud fossil, with what you're getting with that guy there, that there was some ancient story, and these giant things like, the Devil's Tower, they were once alive. And this guy from Mud Fossil University, and people all over the world are taking samples of what looks like it's just a rock or a mountain, and it's living fossilized tissue, and the labs are showing it. Back to you.
Yes. Well, I'm just saying the story you're telling, I think this is happening to many, many thousands of people.
Yeah.
But they don't have anywhere to go. They have to quit their job, and then they go off over here, and now maybe because of COVID, they're home and listening to more of these shows. And so, you say you're Merovingian. Well, I don't know how you found that out, but
I'm guessing, because there's something, I'm all from the UK, German, UK, French, Dutch.
So stop. So the wait, I just told you the line of David, which is one line of Enki Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
It's one line that went from Jerusalem, Cairo, into the German Frankish border, and there that lineage met with the Sicambrian Franks, who became the French, and their great grandmother was attacked by this serpentine sea beast, Enki. Enki's Poseidon, right? He's the Lord of the Waters. So now he's impregnated both lines and went into Germany, France.
Right.
And this is where you're from.
And then I was talking to Stuart Swerdlow's wife, whose name is also Janet, and she told me that she and I were used in these rituals to open stargates, and she had full memory when I was
in a past life,
in this life, and she said, okay, Stuart Swerdlow came here to do a series of presentations. And one day he said, my wife, Janet Janet cries every time I mention your name. And I just stopped everything. I said, what? Why is your wife crying? He says, because you're her twin. I go, how can I be her twin? I've never met her. He said, no, you two were used in these Stargate rituals to open the portals. I go, so was this like a satanic evil thing? He says, no. It was good because she is of the Merovingian. So somehow she's always been saying she's Merovingian, but she was saying that so you're talking about these magical children. So I'm able to open portals and do my stuff in my tantric practice. And then the government wanted me. They tracked me. They knew I was coming. They orchestrated it so I would end up getting a job there, and it was like a big backstory. And it was like after the fact, it's like, oh my God, because the odds of getting there were like minuscule, and so everything was orchestrated. So I'm there in time for this ritual and opening the Stargate. And she's telling me that I'm part of this thing, and so I'm just piecing it together. But I've always identified with Ninmah. Now, does she have a lot of her DNA going through me? I channel Ninmah. I get information. Sometimes I'm accessing what she thought. So when I'm writing a story, I can just pull her in and I get details. And it's just, it blows my mind. And I tell Sasha, I go, I'm crazy. And he goes, no, go with it. Because if you're making it up,
There's groups of women. There's a group of women. One of them's on the call tonight. That are in Toronto, outside Toronto, and a lot of them have experiences with Ninmah. One has her going through her bedroom, and the husband thought she'd lost her mind, and I was asking her, well, what is she saying? And she's saying, Janet, things that are in my book 5 that hadn't been published yet. So the husband, who doesn't believe this, a couple of years later, he's in a hotel, by himself on business, and he wakes up, and a woman has appeared in the bedroom, is touching him on the arm. I assume it's the same woman passing through his master bedroom at his house. And now when he's alone, she's giving him the message. And when that message comes, so the audience knows, you have a choice. You can just say, the hell with it, I'm not doing this. Or you can say, I'm going to follow. And you chose to follow.
Well, she's the lady.
Or Sasha did.
And there's other people that are identifying with Ninmah, and they say, I don't know how to, am I Ninmah? Is it a past life? Is it simultaneous life? Is she coming through? We don't know how to explain it, but Ninmah is coming through a lot of women, and not a lot. I don't know, not a lot. I don't know. Some people aren't speaking about it, obviously, because they don't want to get locked up as a loony. But I'm out there already, so I'm speaking it. I'm being brave and saying it. And so I want to connect with the other fractals. I think these are fractals, because a very powerful ancient soul like Ninmah would be, she has the ability to send fractals. And same with Hermes, was the thrice-born Hermes of Nagashita. So he was able to come down into physical form and through the birth canal and experience life as a human. But apparently what he did, and I've tracked down the stories, is that when he was ready to go back into, he would sit on a throne. There's a book I have where he's sitting on a throne, and I guess he just left. So when they leave, it's like the story of Medusa. They turn into stone. So they can leave their body, it turns into stone, it solidifies. And so there's a story I have here where the guy found a hole under a statue, which was marking the spot, and he kept digging at it, and he kept covered it up, and they would come back at night, and he eventually went down, and there's a giant statue, and it's got Hermes on it, and he's holding the emerald tablets, right? So these stories keep coming to us from around the world, and then in this life, I met a woman from England, and she said. She was one of the royals, and she said, well, I go, what's your name? She goes, well, you're not going to know the real royals, the Anunnaki. We don't announce our names. You're not going to know. We don't care about celebrity. We're not going to be the kings and queens. They're the demigods, right? They're the hybrids, or the kings and queens. And so, no, so she was apparently an Anunnaki, and she had a human form, which is an avatar. They, just like in the movie Avatar, they can send their consciousness down and walk among us. And so she's talking to me because she said, I said, why are you talking to me? She says, because you do Tantra, right? So she's curious, and she reaches out to me, and we have this 2.5-year dialogue. But she tells me under her house, there are caves. She has an ancient library that's 1,000 years old, has a lot of the things that the Crusaders brought back. And she gave access to Sir Lawrence Gardner. Have you ever read Sir Lawrence Gardner's information?
Of course, of course.
So he had access to her library, and that's how he wrote those dozen books or whatever he did.
Oh,
And she said there's other royals that are sitting on top of these gold mines of information. But she said, she said there's a giant throne underneath her house. So in Bosnia, they've uncovered the story of the Valley of the Kings, and there's a dozen of these giant thrones. So maybe the thrones have
In Bosnia. In Bosnia?
It's either Transylvania or Bosnia. I have to talk to Peter Moon goes every year. I'm going to get we have to piece this all together, maybe in a PowerPoint or something. Get all the pieces of the puzzle, and I've got to do the quotes, and I've got to. I can look through my different recordings.
Wow.
And get the quotes from the different people. This is a lot of work, right? I've got to chop water and carry wood, and do my life, ABCs of my life. But anyway. So there's the stories of these giant thrones. There's the stories of them coming down into human form and then leaving. There's the stories of them sending pieces of themselves down into different people. And I get this all the time. They go, I'm Enki, I'm Enlil. A lot of Marduks walking around, a lot of them. So because we're telling the Anunnaki story, we've written 5 books, and we have another 6 or 7 in the work. Another book 6 and 7 in the works. We get all these people that are confiding us, like, I think I'm really this, and a lot of people are Jesus, and it's like, so you could dismiss them and say they're all crazy, but then if you pay attention, you go, there's something going on here, and what is this? So you have another story. And is it the lady that's in our chat right now, or that's listening right now? Is she the one?
Yeah, Joanne is a central figure in this group of women who have contacted about 30 days ago. Because the time is right now.
We're running out of time right now. It's gonna be ending. So let's pick this up. Let's make another date, and we'll ask Joanne if she wants to come in and speak at the next one. Maybe just. I don't know. Some people aren't out of the closet, so to speak, and some people are.
Oh no, she's a brave one, and she has a few friends that are near her. This is north of Toronto, which is in the land of On. It's in Ontario, the land of On, which is the continuation from Egypt.
So let's.
Although I can't convince people of that here, but.
I'll talk to you off the show about when we could do it, and we'll get some of these people who are brave enough to come forth. And we'll do another episode. What do you think? Want to do that?
Yeah. Have her answer in the chat. Joanne, answer in the chat. Say yes.
So I'm going to have to end this because I have to go. I have to go to the bathroom. So we'll just end this.
Yeah, she says yes.
Yes.
I told you it's raining all over the world. It's raining all over the world, right?
Right. It was trying to rain here today. Yeah, it looked like a storm was kicking up, but it never happened. So thank you so much, Glenn. Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome.
Thank you. Fun. We go all over the place.
We do. So okay, I'm not sure how to end it. Here we go. Thank you, everybody.
We're getting a few days. All right.
Thank you, Joanne. Aloha. Bye.